YouTube.
Yeah.
And we're starting up for the people, setting up for YouTube Live. Okay. Now I'm back, and I believe now we're streaming to YouTube and are on recording. So welcome. I'm Laura Jane, and I'm here with Holly Rudnick. And we're coming to you from the Bay Area. We're both in the Bay Area of California. And we're so excited to bring you this workshop webinar that we're recording for you to enjoy currently with us live or later at your leisure. And we're calling this Intuition and Daily Practice. And we'll tell you more why as we unfold here. And yeah, and Holly has some sage and Palo Santo that she's going to burn for us as part of a...
I haven't ever done this for a Zoom call.
Yeah.
I send this energy, send this out to you guys to
clear
our space.
I like to feel that we can, see it as like a sacred circle that we're starting, and we get to clear the energy with the sage just because we decide it's doing that, right? And
no, totally. Yeah.
And you were saying that you use sage a lot, you and your hubby have been known to bring it out amongst the tweens and the teens.
Yeah, I think it's stinky.
They think it's stinky, yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I think it's the intention, right? It's the intention of just like saying, okay, I'm gonna clear this space intentionally. And that's
right. And just playing with that power and how, and I got to help with an anxiety workshop last year with a couple marriage and family therapists, and they were really talking about things like sage being like an anti-anxiety thing that we can build in as a practice. That it's just interesting how doing something like burning sage, it just kind of gives us something to do with that energy, and and then when we recognize that it is all energy. So yeah, it's fun to share as this is some of even what we're talking about, right? With daily practices like
it's a ritual.
Burning sage, right? And that's even something that we might do religiously every day, or we might just do it when we feel like we need it, right? The burning of the sage.
That's a great thing, like lighting a candle. It just set like the beginning, or saging or doing Palo Santo, like sets the beginning of your practice. And
making it sacred. And you said you have a candle going there.
I have a candle going. I always try to have a candle going.
Yeah. And then will you burn some of the Palo Santo for us? I'm so thankful you had some currently. Somehow I'd run out of mine. So this is reminding me to keep sage. And then
went out a little bit.
Yeah. What have you heard about Palo Santo? Do you feel like you've heard some things about it or believe some things?
That we heard that like sage is very strong, right? It's like a bleach almost. It gets rid of everything. Palo Santo is, I understand, just like a little bit. Oh, my dog's gonna knock stuff over. Just a little bit like gentler. So our dog was having anxiety, and somebody recommended this for the
oh my gosh! Wow.
But
Palo Santo to help the dog.
Like, kind of nervous, yeah.
Oh my gosh!
Lighting a lighter.
I love that. Yeah, and it's totally, both these things are a form of meditation, right? Because they're engaging our senses, they're bringing us into the moment. And it's like you said, it's a lot about just getting into our intention, right? And just deciding, I'm going to take right now to clear the space, clear the energy for myself, for my house, for my dog.
Yeah. It's just the intention. It feels really good.
Yeah. And really, I love that. That's like what we're talking about. So yeah, we're so happy to have you here as you come to watch this, because we wanted to bring this together as Holly, as an intuitive coach, and I'm a yoga therapist, among things. And so we both have our ways that we're so interested, right, in self-care and even personal development and spirituality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love that this came from our real fascination and awareness with ourselves and the people we work with, that wow, there's something to this. If we want to be more intuitive, live more intuitively, And what does that mean? How do we do that? Like, how much does that relate to our daily practices, right? And just all the ways that we've seen that now interweaves.
Yeah, we do. I mean, your intuition is something that you practice, right? And self-care or daily practices helps to strengthen your intuition. So if you're not having like a daily ritual, or if you're caring for yourself, your intuition isn't going to be able to speak to you as loudly, or you're not, because you're not paying attention. You really need to turn inward, and we do that by taking a few minutes for ourselves every day. So it's super important, like a little daily ritual for our intuition. Yeah.
So clearly said, and how it's about the listening and the paying attention and like the going inward that we need to do so that we can be listening and paying attention, right? Because those are such parts of being in touch with our intuition is through listening and our attention. And then so interesting that those are a lot of what we're working with things like yoga and meditation and all these aspects that, you know, we are going to be getting to talk about, that they're so much about our attention and developing our ability to listen, right? It's so beautifully intertwined. And then yeah, that I love that we've started to see, which I'm sure we'll be weaving in and out of today, this awareness too, that the more intuitive we let ourselves be about our practices, right, that also enhances our use of the practices and makes them work so much better. So I'm so excited that realization that we've been having as we decided to talk about these things.
Yeah, being intuitive, like it makes it, it just adds a element of fun to it, right? This isn't supposed to be like hard work as we think of hard work. This is supposed to be like joyful and playful and fun. And when we are listening to our intuition and as part of our daily ritual, you know, it can morph and change into what our body needs most. This morning, I noticed there was a beautiful sunrise. I was up early. And I took my lemon water and I just opened the door and watched for a little bit and like inhaled the clean air and listened to the birds. And it was just like a spontaneous part of my routine. And I was like, oh, I need to start doing this now that it's springtime. I'm going to it's not dark when I wake up. I'm going to poke my head outside and just connect for a second. And that was just my intuition, you know, gently nudging me in that direction. And I just followed, and it was,
yeah. So even within your practice time, to be willing to be intuitive and let it morph and be a little different each day, and then to let it be playful, right? That feels like such a new awareness too, because something about practice sounds serious and disciplined and routine and structured and fixed, right?
Yeah.
Which maybe and it's interesting because you and I both have seen there's a benefit to having some of that in place, right? That some structure, some rhythm, some routine, but then when we let ourselves have some freedom and just be intuitive about it, it makes it work so much better, right? And not turn it into another war with ourselves.
Right. Right. I think if we keep it playful and joyful, it's more beneficial. And so then it makes us want to do it again. And we as humans like structure. We like a little bit of rhythm. And this just brings a nice little bit of, you know, you can bring a nice bit of rhythm to your day, you know, of something you did just for yourself. And yeah, I could just, but by doing it daily and having that rhythm, you see the benefits of it, like with your movement that you'll be giving us later, like just doing that on a daily, practicing your yoga on a daily basis, it builds upon itself and you start seeing the benefits of it, and therefore you want to do more. And so feeds into it.
Right. And there is some value to having some consistency with some practices, because like you're saying, they're going to keep developing and evolving, and their effects are going to be more impactful if we stay in them, you know, whether it's any form of meditation, or any form of yoga, we can say basically, which, you know, I love to say how that's just anything that connects us.
All of that. all of
Yeah.
that practice, and speaking to the word practice, it does like sound like we're getting ready for some big event, right? But this is something you just always practice. There's no end goal here. So you're just always practicing. So you can always practice something else. And, build it, building that momentum through your practice of strengthening your meditation and strengthening your yoga practice and strengthening your journaling. It's just such an ebb and flow. You could be going really great, and then you're going to pull back a little bit, and then you're going to go again. Like that message has been coming to me so much the last week or so, that it's just this gentle back and forth. So our practice is always moving back and forth. There's no destination, right?
Yeah. And often how our practices, well, I mean, we've been loving talking about how our practices are really setting us up to deal with life better and challenge better. But then it's so nice to let our practices adapt to what is actually happening in life, right? And that's part of this more intuitive way of living is right to let it, like you said, and just to honor that there's going to be an ebb and flow. And that's even part of what would make something practice, right? Instead of being perfect. Practice does imply that there should be this, like, even an ability to be more novice about something, right? Or you're like learning instead of performing.
You're always learning with this. I mean, I'm always learning. I'm always learning about my meditation, about myself, about what works for me. I'm always learning through the yoga movements and the journaling, always learning. It's like never.
Yeah, right. And to see that that's part of what it's doing for us. And yeah, and I feel like part of what I feel like I want to bring up at this point, and then yeah, maybe we can move into inviting you to share more about intuition and what we mean by that, or how you like to talk about that. But I'm feeling like it might be nice for us to bring up already that you and I both agree that right, it needs to work for someone's life. And so as much as you and I are into things like a morning routine, right, and carving out that 30 minutes to an hour, especially as moms, to do that, and that it has been so helpful that we both want to also encourage the idea that any time of day is a great time of day. And even with a morning routine, that idea of, like in that book that's out there about the miracle morning, right, that talks about the different tools that can be part of a successful morning routine, which I think we're actually tapping into a lot of those today. So that book is probably worth mentioning. But I love that author says, I think he has like 6 or 7 tools, right, which are, I think it's like silence, affirmation, movement is one of them, visualization, exercises, that one, reading, it's a lot of things we do and that we're talking about. But even if you just did 1 minute of each thing, 1 minute of the exercise, 1 minute of silence, 1 minute of something involving visualization, 1 minute of reading, right? So you'd have a 6 or 7 minute routine, right? So that's what I think. I just wanted to bring that up early on for anybody who's watching this and interested, but has that kind of overwhelmed feeling like, oh, but I also don't know if I can add another thing. And does it have to be that much time? Does it have to be in the mornings? Yeah. Right. So I just wanted to bring some of that up right away. And yeah, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, that's just a really good point. I'm glad you brought it up because it can be overwhelming to think of adding in an hour's worth of practice to your day. And I'm pretty sure that if you started with an hour, you wouldn't last very long. You would probably go back to not having a morning routine. So I always encourage people to just start with like 2 minutes, 5 minutes, like just a simple guided meditation. And then maybe that's it, and drink a lot of water, have that be your practice. And then you just start building on them. And then even that, I find people dip their toe in and then they pull back and then they come back to it and then they go back. It's that ebb and flow again. And yeah, just to not judge yourself and just have fun with it. And it's unique for everyone. And what works for everyone is unique.
Yeah. And I feel like that's what we're hoping with this workshop, that we can share more about intuition and then share some about the daily practices that some of the things that you and I really love to use and share. And that we're hoping that anyone who watches this is going to get, inspired or reminded of things they've loved in the past or would love to add, and are going to, be picking and choosing and deciding, ooh, I think, yeah, I am going to add a gratitude practice in, or, ooh, yeah, maybe I am going to add some movement like that, or meditation, right? And so that's our hope here, is that we're going to just remind you of some of what practices can look like. And we already did, even with the sage and the Palo Santo. And that you're going to come out of this just hopefully getting some pieces that you might start to add into your daily practices, and then just maybe a different approach with your daily practices, where you can just be a lot more intuitive, and then also know how much it is helping you with your intuition, right? Yeah. So that it could just be a soft, loving support, right? Not like
yes,
a kick in the pants kind of thing, but something that can actually help people add these things in a way that is harmonious, right? For body, mind, and spirit. So, well, so glad that we're all here. And maybe it would be nice to just kind of, as we settle in, kind of have a little minute of breathing and relaxing. And then I'll turn it over to you, Holly, if you're up for that. Yeah. But maybe for anyone who's here, we could just invite us to get into our bodies a little bit more and just stretch and move in any ways that feels intuitive, and just kind of letting our body lead us. And then, once we feel like we've had enough of that, to settle into a little more like stillness, and a intention to relax into our position. And we could even soften the face and jaw to help relax the rest of the body more. We could have closed our eyes if we wanted to start to go a little bit more inward for a moment. And so all of these are elements of practice. And maybe as we're just relaxing more into our position and starting to breathe a little bit more into where we're at, maybe breathing a little bit more slowly and fully into the belly, and doing a few slower, longer exhales to relax us some more, and still feeling free to move as needed. Maybe we can just kind of notice how we're doing as we get started. Invite ourselves even more into here and now, with our just being more aware of the body and being more in our senses. And just, more relaxed, more with the breathing. So we could be doing that throughout our time together. And maybe inviting ourselves into even more of a listening mode. The sounds, and even just aware of what's happening in our minds this morning or afternoon, I guess it is. And just ready to listen and be present, right? And soak this up. All right. So we had talked about kind of starting this up with inviting Holly, who is an intuitive coach. And I hope you'll even share a little bit of just how even your short one sentence description about your journey to being an intuitive coach. But so you might pull out your notepads if you want at this point, and we're just going to hear from Holly for a bit about, some of this intuition and daily practice and what's coming through. And I think I'll mute myself too.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Laura Jane. If you want to interject anything while I'm talking, please feel free to speak up. So I am an intuitive mind, body, spirit coach. I was called to the training about 3 years ago. And it was purely just for my benefit, because the training for coaching is basically you're working on yourself and coaching yourself and with a group for a year, very intensive internal work. And I just felt like it was something I really needed at that point in my life. My kids, I had homeschooled and my kids were going into school and we had just moved, and I kind of needed something. And I was familiar with these teachers and loved them. So I did a year's training. And then about a couple weeks after that, I finished, I was diagnosed with cancer and had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I had a tumor about the size of a grapefruit on my spine. And so I went through 6 months of chemotherapy and I'm cancer-free, almost 2 years now. While I was sick, I really had to draw upon everything I'd learned as a coach, and I realized how beneficial it was. And I decided that I would like to share it with other people, because I love like doing stuff like this with Laura Jane. It's just like the most fun ever to talk about this stuff. I still meet with all my fellow coaches and we just talk about it. It's so fun. And I really love the intuition part of it, because I think it's just so important for us to be in touch with our intuition. And it's like something we all have and we all know it's there, but a lot of us don't pay much attention to it. It's like, you'll have this knowing, when you walk into the room, how you feel the energy, you can read the room, or when you're thinking about a person and they call you or you run into them. Very simple things like that. That's all of our intuition. And we kind of all take that for granted. And just, that's normal, right? But it's a muscle that you can strengthen and pay attention to more. We're always getting signs. We're always being guided. And once you start paying attention to them, it can be really fun. So I just have a really good time with it. And I am practicing all the time. I am always taking more classes, and I'm learning how to work with it more, and how to really incorporate it into daily life and just pay attention to all those things. And I use it with my business, like, in calling Laura Jane and saying, I want to start my daily practice. And I knew kind of what she was doing, and I knew our stuff would work together. And I was just called to get into the daily practice. And the more we talked, the more it just synced up. And then this happened. So, me following that little spark of, I need to do this, led to this. And when you follow those little breadcrumbs, it can lead to great things. So as far as a daily practice, it is super important in my work as an intuitive coach to have that. Without that, you can get more up into your mind, your monkey brain consistently, and then you are not able to pay attention to those signs. And I am there. We all are there at some point. It just happens. But it's good to have the practice to know that it can bring you back to yourself and bring you back to the quietness in your body and just paying attention. So in my class, we call them success habits, and they can go throughout the day. I know we're focusing on a morning ritual because Laura Jane and I, that's kind of like what we personally do. But success habits can be meeting with your friends once a week. That was me, like connecting with people, right? Which was super helpful in the pandemic. I had to remember to do that. You have to call people and you have to like Zoom, and you have to connect with people. It might be, doing something that makes you laugh once a day.
I'm taking notes of this part for myself.
I always have to remind myself too. Yeah, success habits. Drinking water is super important. Listening to especially for a coach, you can get super dehydrated. It's really funny. When I'm in a session with somebody and primarily just working with my intuition, I get super thirsty. It's strange, but you're drinking a lot of water. Most of us are dehydrated. So just drink lots of water. Going for a walk in nature, going outside, just spending time outside is so important. That can really ground us. Having a meditation practice is great. It's not necessary, but I would encourage just 2 minutes a day of just quiet reflection, journaling, gratitude practice, all those things. But you can really design this how you want. And you can decide, okay, I'm going to focus on one success habit for a month. I'm going to make sure I drink enough water, and just start doing that and see how you feel, and be really gentle with yourself. Like I said earlier, I would not recommend adding in an hour's worth of practice, because it'll just be overwhelming and you'll be flooded with too much emotion, and you'll probably be like, I'm going to stop. I just can't do this. This is too hard. That's what we always say, right? It's too hard to meditate. It's too hard to do that every day. And the reason it's too hard is because then we're going into those quiet, reflective places in our brain, and we're having to confront some things, and it's uncomfortable. And we really shy away from that. But once you make a practice of doing that, you find that once you get through that and to the other side, you feel so much better. And then the more you do that, it's not as scary. It's like, okay, there's something else. Here we go. I'm ready for the ugliness. Because you know that once you get to the other side of that, it's all goodness. It's all messages to guide you to a place where you're going to feel better. Like working on forgiveness. That's a big one. Just forgiving yourself, forgiving people in your life that you need to forgive. That can really help open up your intuition. And that can be a daily practice of just saying like the little forgiveness prayer. I forget what it's called. It's Opal one. I just saw it. There's like
that Opopono.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about that? I think that seems really powerful. Like, do you have any, why do you think forgiveness, like with ourselves and others, I assume, would play a role in our intuition? It seems like it's so true, but I'm just curious, like, if you would want to share what you like, how do you feel like that works?
If you're whole, like if you need to forgive, right, and you're in a place where you feel like you need to forgive somebody, and I'm just gonna say, forgiveness is not saying what they did was okay, or what happened was okay. Forgiveness is saying it happened in the past. There's nothing I can do to change it, and I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let that energy go. You're not
right, and with ourselves too, right?
Yeah,
that's because I mean, for most of us, that's probably the big one, forgiving ourselves. So same thing, like you're saying. If it's about something that even that we have to say that to ourselves, maybe it wasn't okay what I did, what but it happened, I need to let it go, right? It's like that kind of thing we even do with ourselves.
What did I learn from it? What did I learn from it? What, I've often said, if these things wouldn't have happened to me, I wouldn't be who I am. So I can't be like, I don't want to sit in a place of where I'm judging and I'm angry. So anger is a lower vibration. It's going to hold you in a negative space, and you want to let that go.
And do you think we just don't hear our intuition as much when we're in those vibes? I mean, it's like literally kind of blocking it when we're in that energy.
Think of when you're angry, like how for me, when I'm angry, I'm so up in my head and I feel like I'm spinning, right?
Yeah.
Spinning, and all that energy just needs to get out. And if I don't eventually let it go, it'll eat you up inside.
Yeah.
Because what you focus on grows. So if you're constantly focusing on your anger over an incident or something that happened, you're going to invite more anger into your life.
Right. Right. And then it's also like a distraction too, isn't it? From that listening and paying attention.
It is huge.
Because now we're listening and paying attention to something else. So then we're not going to hear the intuition as much.
We're not going to hear that intuition. Yeah, at all. And we might know, like usually, your intuition might start screaming at you as far as manifesting itself into health issues.
Yes.
Like when I after I'd done that year's worth of work, I knew my cancer was, could have been, who knows? I mean, they have no idea why, right? But I knew that I was probably unresolved anger that I was hanging on to.
Yeah, right. That it's often emotions that we haven't dealt with that end up getting us sick and out of whack, right? Mentally or physically. So that's so interesting that our practices are helping us. Like we got into that a little earlier too, but how it's helping us with our emotions. And that's such a part of our intuition.
Yes.
Right. So our practices that help us with our emotions, like our journaling, our meditation, even our movement, our time in nature, is part of what we're talking about. Wow. Yeah.
And I want to say something that just they're telling me to talk about. Like a lot of times people say, oh, you're just wanting to be like a Pollyanna is the word that comes to mind. You want to be happy all the time. No one can be happy all the time. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying you're going to be happy all the time. because you're a human, and humans go through the whole, all the emotions. We are lucky enough to get to feel them all. And we should be grateful for that, because that's what makes us who we are. But the work and being guided by your intuition and doing that inner work to be guided by your intuition brings you to a place where I know that I can handle what's coming my way. Like, I know, the worst case scenario, a loved one passes away, I will be okay. I even got to the place where I know if I die, I'm okay. I'll be okay. Like,
Yeah.
the worst happens, no matter what happens, you will be able to walk through those emotions. Okay. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah. So it's like a confidence too that you're, and a resilience for
Resilient.
sure that
Yeah.
you're developing.
Because you're not afraid of them. So like, if you're going to feel the sadness or feel the anger, feel it. And if you feel it and you stop ignoring it or pushing it away, it's amazing how fast it can pass through your body.
Yeah. Right. So it's not about avoiding the negative emotions and that they're like part of the process. But then when we dwell in them,
Right.
or get stuck or stagnant in them, that really starts to block us with our intuition, and much less manifest physical issues as part of intuition, right?
Right. And a daily practice just can help you be stronger when those moments come around. Like, I wish, you want every day to be great, but you're going to have those days. Like, I wake up, I know we all do. I wake up some days and I'm just in a pissy mood. I just don't feel good. And I don't know why, but and I used to spin out on that, right? It could go for days at that point, because I would lash out at people and be mean to my family. But now when that happens, I'm like, okay, I don't feel good. Wow, I am like in a really awful mood. What do I need to do? I'm going to go for a walk. I need to go for a walk. I'm going to shake it out. I'm going to watch something funny. I'm going to tell my family, hey guys, I'm not feeling good today. I'm sorry if I'm going to snap at you. Like, just like vocalizing it is like part of it. It's okay. Like, all the emotions are okay to feel, for no reason, right? You can be sad for no reason. And you just allow yourself to feel them, go back to your practices. And then,
right. And that your practices,
our
practices give us a chance to feel them often, right? Yeah. Like, whether it's during a walk or in the bath, if a hot bath is one of our practices, or on the page in the journal, right? And that, it's actually, I'm thinking you're saying it's like, it's okay to feel the emotions, and it feels like it's even more than okay, right? It's like becoming important that we feel the emotions, right? It's like, if we don't, that's where the problems start to happen. And the disconnect is when we don't have ways to be dealing with our emotions, right? And that's, it's just so interesting how our practices are doing that for us so much, is giving us a place and a way to deal with ourselves emotionally.
Like my daily movement that you've given me, it helps, that I know is helping my body move energy through it that I'm feeling, right? Like, so if I'm any energy I don't even know is there, right? It's helping to move it through my body, sadness, anger, everything moves through, happiness, joy, it all just moves through and comes back. But yeah, you're right. We don't want to get it stuck, right? We don't want to get stuck in any of our emotions, because then we're not having the full human experience.
Ooh, yeah, that's a great way of saying it. Yeah. And it is so interesting to bring it back to how it's all energy, and how anything that can help us move the energy, and that even those emotions are just energy. And then that, the awareness of things like stored trauma as kind of stuck energy, and how much that could kind of block us from being in touch with our intuition as much, right? That stored trauma as like an energy that's literally like between us and our intuition. So it's so awesome how we can use then energy work, which these practices all are too, whether it's journaling or meditation or walking or mat practice. It's helping us attend to that stored trauma and free it up, and get, and then make room for that connection again. Yeah, it's so powerful and important.
Your body and your mind kind of will know intuitively, again, once you start doing that, what to do, what you need to do, you'll be guided to do certain.
Yes, that I love that conversation too. That's what it can become about, is tapping in at this moment to like what do I need as a practice at this moment would be the most intuitive way of all, right? And then to be actually willing to do that.
Why am I, you can ask yourself, like, where is this coming from? Why am I feeling this way? What do I need to do in this moment? You know, and that voice always is a loving voice. It's never a voice that tells you to do anything that would hurt yourself or anything that's negative. Your intuitive voice is always loving, always kind, always has your best interest, right? It's never going to guide you somewhere. So then you're also going to have to learn to recognize that. And by doing your daily practice, like sitting with yourself, you can learn to recognize what's the monkey mind or your inner critic talking, you know, judging you. Like your inner intuition never judges. Like it's never going to do that. So you can learn the difference. You can be like, okay, you quiet and sit down. Just take a seat. I'm just going to listen, and it's soft, and it'll speak to you.
Yeah. So is it like a lot about deciphering those different voices within and learning which one we want to listen to? Wow. Yeah. And how we're taking care of ourselves helps us do that. It's so interesting. Yeah. And powerful. And and I know, I love that you and I both maybe like to share that intuition we could see it as this thing within us, maybe our true self, our inner voice, or even like it's our connection with God or spirit or the universe, right? And like where we're getting we're getting the information or what's coming towards us from the universe or spirit or so that's where we can see it's such a spiritual thing if when we really get down to it. And so that's why the more that we do to get in that vibration too, the more that we're gonna receive that transmission, right? And that it's such a mind, body, spirit thing. Oh yeah, and I was going to ask, would you be willing to talk a little bit more about the different forms of intuition too? Like if we were talking a little bit that like clairvoyance, clairsentience kind of stuff, and how that actually makes sense for people in the world.
I'm so bad at always remembering what they are,
or how you like to think about and talk about that. I think, because I love how you share how the different ways we can receive that guidance, right? And how there's different, whether it's through the body, the mind, the the bus driving by.
Clairvoyance is divine seeing. So
divine seeing. That's a great way to say
it. You have in your mind, or it can be like seeing a sign that speaks to you at the right time, or just it's through your sight. Right?
Okay, something to do with vision and sight is clairvoyance. Okay, right. And I think you said that we all maybe have all of these forms of intuition, but maybe some of us are more tend to be stronger in one than the other, right? And maybe some of us are more tend to get the visions or hear this. Or so go on.
So you always have a dominant clair. You always have a dominant one.
A dominant clair. That's right. That sounds like a band name or something.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a good one. You always have a dominant one, but you have access to all of them, and there is a way to strengthen each individual one. If you wanted to strengthen clair, you could work on strengthening them.
Ooh, and probably which practices we're doing maybe would strengthen some more than others. Would you say, like, if we know we wanted to strengthen our clairvoyance, would we want to maybe do more things that engage that? Not that we can't do that within any practice, really, but
you would focus on that. Like you would focus on that. Like you would look and focus.
Or just kind of decide you're going to even be using that more.
Yeah. Ooh, Can I do a book? Can I do a book plug for somebody?
Oh, please.
Always. So my teachers wrote this book. It's called, I don't know if it comes up on if it's like, You Don't Look Psychic.
Yeah.
It's a new book. So they have all this stuff in here about all the clairs and
great.
How to increase your intuition. And they have it looks like a huge book, right? But the back part of it is they have great like meditations and processes
Oh,
and
how cool.
kind of witchy spells if you want to do some of that, like rituals. Like,
Yep.
so I am going directly out of here because they do such a good job.
Perfect. I love it.
So clairvoyance, like they always see, can be like a dream, right?
That could be a form of clairvoyance. Yeah. Totally. I'd forgot about that.
Yeah. And then clairsentience is getting information through through feelings and your senses. So like feeling it on your body, like a cold sensation or a tingling or a feeling like you have, like sick to your stomach, or you know, something starts to hurt, like that. That's your clairsentience.
Okay.
Clairaudience is your ears, and that is hearing. So you do you ever like hear like a voice like call your name or something, or you hear a whisper, or a song comes on the radio that wasn't supposed to come on? Like my mom loved Bob Dylan, and my daughter was listening to one of her stations that does not play Bob Dylan, and a Bob Dylan song came on. Like, there's a little message for you, but you can get like personal messages, you know, through listening. Some people that's the one they have. Yeah. And then claircognizance is receiving intuition through thought. So like it just like kind of like a download comes into your head, right?
Right. Getting like an idea, or just an impulse to call someone, or to look up something, or okay.
Yeah. So those are all of your clairs, and they're fun to work with. They're fun to like, but I would highly, if you're super interested, I would recommend your book. It's on Amazon. It's by Annette Brown and Dr. Divi Chandra.
Great. Yeah. I love to be all about giving resources, you know, to empower the people. Yeah. And I just feel like that's exciting too, as we get into thinking about practices, to just kind of have that in our awareness, like, oh, and then kind of thinking about, oh, that's why we would do things with our body, right? Or even with our emotions, or even with our minds, or, you know, because those are all the ways that we engage imagination or intuition, imagination. Yeah, that's really helpful and brought up some new awarenesses for me. Yeah.
Did you want me to lead you through a meditation?
Yeah, so let's do that. Sure. That's what we thought would be nice. Next is you're going to lead us through, you know, something that you feel is easy, simple, something for us to try. Sounds great.
This is just a body scan meditation. So we'll get into your body and maybe any emotions that are stuck in there. And then afterwards, I have just some simple journaling prompt questions to just kind of record.
Okay. So for people who want to now join for, or, you know, be ready for this part, they could get their journal out or nearby, and then, great. Okay. So pause the video and get your journal if you need to.
Watching the recording. Yeah. Okay. So just want to ask you to get comfortable and begin to relax. And let yourself shift or move to become more comfortable. Take a few long, slow breaths and let them go. Letting the out breath be a real letting go kind of breath. Just let go on each out breath and begin to relax easily and comfortably with no effort. Just letting yourself begin to tune inside, beginning to pay attention to your inner world and let the outer world be. When you're ready, see yourself in a beautiful place in nature. There is a calm to this place. You may see trees, waterfalls, beautiful grass, and a temperature that is just right for you. Take a few moments and a few deep belly breaths to allow yourself to feel yourself in this place. Place yourself in this scene and begin a tour of your body,
to get a deeper sense of yourself and what you may be feeling. Start first by placing your attention on your fingers, moving the gaze of your attention slowly up your hands to your forearms and upper arms, and finally into your shoulders. Take a few deep breaths in and out as you allow yourself to deeply focus on these body parts. If you feel any tension here, simply pause and be in that body part. What and where do you feel tension? What does it feel like? What emotion may be trapped here? Allow the first emotion to come to mind. Simply sit in this body part and this feeling. Now move your way from your shoulders into your upper back, mid back, and lower back, taking deep, slow breaths. Explore each part of your back with your breaths. Allow yourself to be in your body. If there is any tension or tightness, be in that energy. As you're in that energy, notice which emotion is stuck here. Allow the emotion to show up. Take deep breaths in and out. In and out. As you be that emotion, you may even notice thoughts that are related to that emotion. Deep, slow belly breaths, moving in and out. Now allow your focus to go to the front body. Feel the face, scalp, neck, and head. Simply be this experience. Be in your face, head, neck, temples, jaw, and teeth. Simply notice and be. Breaths in and out. Breaths in and out. As you do this, notice if there is any tension or discomfort and simply be with it, noticing what emotion may be there. If you are not getting any specific emotion, do not worry. You cannot get this wrong. Keep breathing in and out. Now move the awareness and focus into the upper chest, shoulders, heart, lungs, and breast area. Take deep belly breaths as you be in the body. Breathe slowly and deeply. If there are areas of tightness or pain, simply be in the body. What do you notice? Can you be here without running away? How does this feel? Is there an emotion arising? If there is or is not, it does not matter. Simply be with your breath experience. Moving down in the body into the stomach, intestines, and abdomen area. Slow, deep breaths in and out. Notice, be aware, and observe your abdomen. How does it feel? Being in the body. Slow, deep breaths. Notice if there is an emotion and thoughts behind it. Now moving into the hips, buttocks, thighs, legs, and feet. Take a deep, slow breath. Be in the legs, hips, pelvis, and thighs. What does it feel like? Can you be here without running away? As you sit in your legs, what does it feel like? Are there emotions here? Can you be in your legs and hips and feel energy here? Now scan the whole body. Are there any other body parts that we have not scanned that may be feeling tight or tense? What are the emotions? Step back and see how you feel. Take deep, slow breaths in and out. Now, as you gradually return, you will be more present in the moment, returning, being in your body. Gently start to wiggle your feet, toes, fingers. Gently open your eyes when you are ready. Gentle movements, maybe even shake it out a little bit. Feel being in your body. How was that?
I really liked that. I thought that was so helpful to go into the different parts of the body and just really be with the energy more and try putting a name to it. And then just how much the breath, it's so cool to notice how much the breath alone can start to shift things too, right? And the energy experience of those parts. So yeah.
I love that part about, can you be there without running away?
Yeah.
So often
right?
That's what we do. Like a pain in the body or an emotion or a thought in the head, we run away from it. And because we're scared, it's scary. But if you just sit with it and move through it, your body, knows what to do, and it just feels so much better.
Yeah. And I feel like I just want to mention that part of what I feel like I've learned along the way is what we do instead of feel those things often is reach for something that is some sort of a addiction, right? And it doesn't even have to be a substance. It could be just anything that we use to avoid feeling that. I think that's been my clear awareness of what we do when we're doing things as an addiction. It's usually seems to be in order to not face or feel the stuff. That's always what it seems to be about, right? When then that's what's so cool too, that then we can often see it's not even that we have an issue with that thing, whether it's Netflix or alcohol or something, right? But it's more that we're just not dealing with our stuff. So once we start to deal with our stuff, right, that those habits of addiction can shift because we're now dealing with the stuff. You know, it's not just about give up the addiction, it's about deal with the reason you were, you know, start finding a way to face it basically and feel it, which is what we're talking about with these practices, right? Oh, wow.
Yeah, I usually use the word different than stuff, but it starts with an S. But you need to deal with it, like
deal with your shit, right?
With your shit. I said that like a lot. I think a lot of what our problems are is we just don't deal with our shit, and everybody's got shit. It's okay.
Right. We do, right? We really do. We've all have our shit, which is right, just the stuff inside us, whether it's like old painful memories or thoughts and beliefs that aren't serving us, or just the pain of being human, right? The emotions that go with loving people and, you know, life and death. And so, yeah, it's like if we don't deal with it, and I really think that's been like a cultural pattern for a while, it's a lot of us just not dealing with feelings. So that's where this is kind of this modern conscious conversation about, this whole other way of life that, I mean, it's not even just go to a therapist to deal with your feelings, which that can have its place, but this is like, starting to find a daily way to deal with our shit. We could have called the workshop that.
I know, deal with your shit. I know.
Equals more intuition.
Yeah, it totally does. I mean,
right?
We were all taught first. I mean, a lot of us were taught to ignore our feelings and not to put a name to our feelings as kids. Maybe not faulting our parents. They weren't taught any better, but we're learning that it's just so much better to like face it. And everyone has these big feelings and they're all okay. And yes, they can be scary, but you have the capacity to work through them. And it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to, you know, and it's just, but deal with it, and you will. They say, you know, the answers all lie within, and they really do. Because once you deal with shit, it's easier to deal with everything else.
Right. And then the beautiful things that are on the other side of the shit, basically, is what we're talking about. Like, but then it's a daily thing. It's not like we're going to clear up all our shit and then we're just good the rest of our lives, right?
No.
Because there's going to be continual shit. I'm glad that we just, I hope you don't mind. I just brought
You're never going to check that box.
Say shit. Right. Because daily life is going to continue to bring in new shit for us to deal with.
Right. You have an issue with money and you deal with your issue with money. That issue is going to come back. But now you're going to recognize, oh, that's my issue with money. And you're going to have the tools to know what to do around it.
Yes.
So it's not like your shit doesn't go away. You just dealt with it and you've organized it and you know everything. Okay, I know what's going on. Your new shit always comes up because there's something hiding underneath, right? But it's okay.
Dealing, feeling, healing. Your shit.
So before I forget, the journal prompts I have.
Yeah, please.
So I wanted to like make sure that you record like what sensations you did feel, if you felt anything in your body anywhere, and if you did get an emotion. Record that so you don't forget. Yeah. So like, what sensation did you feel and where? Because like placement in the body can tell us things.
Interesting.
Louise Hay's book.
Oh yeah.
Heal Your
Life.
Heal Your Life. Yeah. She has in there great, like, you know, it can. You can like find your body part that's aching and see if there's an emotion maybe tied to it, right?
Yes. And she has like an affirmation in there usually to kind of go.
Yeah, an affirmation, but I even just think that it's just helpful to be, especially like I find like tension in our head, you know, I think it's a great example. Like it's usually a feeling that's causing us to do this, right? I mean, we're on our computer, but you know, when you have a feeling and you get tense, it manifests in your body. Like that's the most obvious way to explain to somebody. So like, if your ankle's been bothering you a lot, like maybe go in to say like, what's going on with that? Like it's stability, right? It's carrying me. Like, am I feeling not capable? Am I feeling not carried? Like whatever it is, it gives you like some just like different ways of like looking at what's going on with you.
Yes. Right. And this is like holistic health, right? When you're looking at, it's absolutely all connected. anything happening with the body always is going to be correlated to the mind, and even our spiritual, life, and vice versa all around. Right. So that's where it's bringing in that awareness that, So, okay. So yeah, I've written down some of what came up for me.
And then I would say, like, what emotions come up for you that are tied to the sensations, which you might have already done. And then, like, when in your life can you remember feeling this emotion? And whatever pops in is okay. And it's okay if you don't get anything. But can you think of a time in your life, it does something to speak to you where that emotion popped in? And then I might suggest, when you have some time in a meditation, or like looking at how you feel about that event, like, have you really dealt with that? Have you forgiven someone you need to forgive, or have you stopped judging yourself for it, whatever it is, like,
right,
see if you have some stuff around there that you haven't quite let go of.
Nice. And so you mean, like, so to bring it into your meditation would mean to just kind of decide, I'm going to literally sit, maybe close my eyes or not, and just kind of contemplate this and let myself think about this and feel about it and be with it. Yeah. Or we could also do that in a journal, or, okay. But yeah,
right,
that
about
sounds like
to you. Go for a walk and think about it. Talk to a friend about it.
Right. Ooh, all those are ways to meditate on it too. Right. So I just think that's helpful too, because sometimes we get unclear. I think that that's really just what meditation is, right? To just like sit. It doesn't even have to be sitting. It's about your attention, right? You're deciding to think or contemplate or focus in a certain way, so that you could just bring these like
relax around the thought, I might say. Relax like the event, or whatever the thing that would cause the emotion, like, think about it in meditation, but they'll relax around it and kind
of ooh, yeah,
your intuition speak to you as to, like, things maybe you haven't realized so
far. Ooh, I think that's an important distinction, because otherwise what makes it just sitting and thinking about something in a way that's going to stress us out, and what makes it meditation, right? And I think those are the key things. There's always relaxation, there's that breath, right? And that's why we bring those things in, so that we can contemplate it, but do it in a more functional state, right? Do it relaxed, use the breath, right? And let it be a functional experience, instead of just getting us more of a tailspin. So that, I think that's
way, right?
Yes, that non-judgment is the biggest. Yeah, I feel like that's the biggest part of the therapy of all these things, right? So we got to bring that into all the practices of life as much. And that's part of what our practices help us do, right? Because like every time we drop into meditation, we're invited to be in that spirit of non-judgment, right? So now it's giving us a chance to practice non-judgment, so that now out of meditation, we're more likely to remember to not judge, right? So that's where we're practicing these perspectives, and even like psychology, right? With all these things. So, wow. Yeah, great. Thank you so much. It's so, I love that. That was perfect kind of meditation. Is there anything else with the journaling?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. That's so great and helpful. And that's something that someone now could even do it themselves now, right? Just like more often. Stop and do that, whether they're on a meditation cushion, or even in the car, or even in the middle of a conversation, right? And that kind of awareness, and then bringing in the breath and the journaling and the meditation with it, is a kind of a new process now to take care of oneself.
Well,
that's great.
Feeling like an issue, if you have a pain, like, sit, breathe into it, see if there's an emotion tied to it, just give some awareness, and you'll find often that just with like little aches and pains and stuff, just doing that and breathing into it gives you some relief too.
Right? Isn't that so neat to work with it like that? And then I think it's a perfect precursor to the talk of how movement plays a role, right? And that I can lead us in just a little bit of movement, right? Because now it's kind of cool that we're in tune with our bodies, and even some of those places where there's the tightness, and we're playing with the ways to shift that. So now it's even more clear that that's what we're doing every time we're using movement, right? Is whether we're aware of it or not, we're going into those energy spots with these exercises with the breath, and freeing more of it up, right? And letting more of it go. And and then, right, that the whole idea with something calling it yoga is that we're going to be basically in meditation while we're doing that, right? So that we're going to be listening and feeling and relaxing and breathing, right? And in that non-judgment. So yeah, that's what I love to share. That's how we call it yoga. So yeah, how about if I could lead us maybe, even just like 5 or 10 minutes of some simple, gentle things that should be safe for most bodies.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it with you.
Yeah. And so if people with us want to gear up for that, we will get on the floor. And I'm just going to take us through a few things that are safe and feel good for most bodies. And of course, if you're watching this, you could pause and go get yourself ready or use the bathroom first if you need to. And yeah, I mean, my preference, like what Holly and I do, is when we get to use poses that are really just right for us each day, if we're going to use things like yoga poses. But we can also, there are general things we can do that can be so helpful. So I'm just going to lead a little bit of that. So yeah, what I want to get us into first is one of my favorite laying down positions that is going to realign us, because some of what we do with the poses also is help our structural alignment, like the chiropractors do. So we're going to be doing some of that with this as well. So let's come into this position where you're going to lay on your back, and hopefully you don't need a pillow, but you want to have your feet on the floor, just hips width apart and straight. And then we're going to lay back on our backs and put our arms by our sides in a low V. Okay, I think you can still see me good. So just laying here is already going to start to help the body realign and relax. And let's just turn our palms up, and we can even put a mudra in the hands for relaxation. How about middle finger to thumb on each hand? And we want to feel symmetrical and comfortable. So shift around so that you do. And even already, we're starting to tune more into our bodies as part of this, right? Just to decide if we feel comfortable, symmetrical, and start to let our body kind of guide us to that. And then let's see what we can do to settle into some stillness and let ourselves start to relax more. Yes, because those things help and really change our energy already. And that it is intended to be a time of meditation. So we're getting more listening, more feeling, more present. And we could have our eyes closed as part of a going inward, or eyes open with a focus, even if you were looking at the screen sometimes. A relaxed face and jaw really relaxes the nervous system. And then let's get into some slower, longer belly-shaped breathing to bring in so much more fresh oxygen and fresh energy. And start to do a lot slower and longer exhales. And we can be doing here kind of like we were doing in the meditation with you, Holly, just, settling in, starting to become more aware of how we are feeling, how we are doing as we get started, bringing in that non-judgment and making note of where we might feel the tight spots, the energy, sensations, and even, things, how we're doing emotionally, how we're doing mentally. So it's really nice to start any physical practice with that checking in of like, what is true? Where am I starting from? And bringing in that non-judgment. And then what's awesome is we're going to get to shift and change at least some of that with our use of the movement and the breath, and all part of honing our attention and our listening. So just being here, this pose is already straightening us out and relaxing us. And we're adding that slower, longer breath, which is calming and relaxing us. And again, just bringing in so much more fresh energy and already starting to clear us out energetically. That breath, like house cleaning for those energy places and helping free stuff up, helping let it go. And we can picture that, help it happen more so. So let's do a little stretch to help neck and shoulders get out of that rounding. We want to do this all very gently and carefully as part of even this being a way to strengthen intuition, listening to our body while we move, not doing things that hurt, letting the body guide us in that way. So let's bring the arms off the floor and interlace the hands, taking a deep breath, turn the palms away and straighten the arms towards the sky and just breathing into this and relaxing all the parts that don't need to be working. So we're practicing relaxing while we practice these poses because relaxed is better for all the systems and intuition, right? And then as we're breathing, let's bring the arms up overhead, slowly, gently towards the floor, just as far as you can go before you feel any strain or pain. And that's where you're using intuition, developing intuition as well, is how far you're going to go into that pose. Only go as far as feels good. Yes, you want to feel a little sense of work. If you're already all the way there, straighten the arms, relax the lower body, breathe into the pose. But we never want to move into pain or strain. And so it's important in the moments of yoga that we're really listening, honoring. And if it hurts, ease out of it a little bit. Find a place before it hurts. Breathe into that. And that's part of how we're developing intuition on the mat, and getting better at listening to ourselves and honoring what's true for us. So last moment in that pose, maybe emphasize it a little if that feels appropriate. One more breath. And then bring the arms back by the sides of the body, taking an integrating breath before we do anything else. Exhale everything out. And maybe just notice already if anything feels a little different and changing from just that simple help. Stretching, realigning neck and shoulders. And again, remember the energy work we're doing, freeing up stuck energy, stuck emotion, getting that moving. So let's do just a couple simple, important hip stretches. I'll move up so you can see me enough. So let's take the left ankle and bring it to the right knee as we're breathing and just pushing the left knee away, finding that first edge of our flexibility there and breathing into that. Relaxing the upper body. Soften the face and jaw. Pushing that knee away and breathing into the pose and noticing how each pose gives us some access to a new area to breathe in some fresh breath, some fresh energy, free up that stuck energy. See and feel that breath clearing you out, helping you let stuff go. Emphasize this stretch towards the end of this minute or so. And then let's put the foot back on the floor, reassemble. So you feel symmetrical and take an integrating breath. And now let's do it on the other side, which will probably be different. Breathe that right ankle to the left knee, push that right knee away, and just noticing what's true on this side, working with that, honoring that. Relax around the work, breathe into the pose. And notice how it's giving you a place to focus. Have your attention with the exercise, with the breath. And then you can be adding more of a listening. And even notice how it's all quieting the mind a bit to be focusing like this. So that's part of how the yoga works as well. But also while we're here, we're having thoughts roll through, right? Listening to that. So it's all one big meditation on the mat. And also getting in listening mode to hear more from intuition, right? The thoughts, the good ideas, the images. Great. Okay, let's put that foot on the floor. And now let's roll to one side. Use a forearm to push up and come to hands and knees. And really, I'm going to keep this short because it's also just fun to see how even just a few things can make a huge difference, right? Mm-hmm. And that's really inspiring, I think, with things like yoga, because sometimes we get overwhelmed and think we have to do an hour to feel good, but even just 3 to 5 minutes. So hands and knees, if that's okay on your body, hands nice and open, knees under the hips. So for some of the cat and dog or cat and cow arching and rounding, which will be some great therapy for the body, So on these, we're going to inhale and arch, tilt the pelvis up, look up. And as we round, we're exhaling, belly tucks in, buttocks tucks, chin tucks. So let's do some more of those. Inhaling as we arch. What's nice with something like this is go as slow as you want to. Keep going, and then you're deciding how big you're making this. That's how this is also developing intuition. Learning to, yes, sure, push yourself in a sense, move towards what's possible for you, but also just keep going with this rounding and arching, getting better at just working in harmony with your body, working with what's true for you, getting good at going at your own pace. And notice how this is all a form of meditation too, bringing us more present, focusing the mind, even centering the mind, quieting the mind, getting us in that receptive mode. Let's do just a few more of those. Inhaling with the arch, ideally exhaling with the rounding. And again, this is amazing energy work we're doing for ourselves. Feel how this is getting energy moving all through the body. All those areas we checked in on during the meditation. We're now helping get energy moving, freeing up stuck energy, stuck emotions. Remember, those emotions are energy. Freeing us up, dealing with our shit. Great. How about just one more of those each way? And then again, I like to keep it so safe so that no matter who's with us, this can be something safe for them. From hands and knees, let's just try. Probably an elevated child's pose is better for a lot of us, unless we know we like a regular child's pose. So elevated would be just sitting the hips back about a third of the way, forehead to the floor, arms in this diamond position. Hopefully, I will scoot back so you can see. And there for about a minute, breathing into the pose. This one also turns on the calm and the relaxation response happening for the nervous system. Just breathing into the pose. And remember how you're breathing in that fresh oxygen, that fresh energy, clearing yourself out as you exhale. Feel yourself, see yourself letting some of that stuff go. That stuck energy, those emotions moving. So amazing energy work we're doing to ourselves during these poses. Great. Awesome. So let's come up out of this. And then what if we just come up onto our knees to kind of finish it up. Maybe give ourselves a couple shoulder rolls if it's okay on the knees. If you're not okay on the knees, you could stand up. But let's just bring the shoulders up, back, and down, and breathe along with that. And yeah, our work with the poses and a lot of movement is just reconnecting us with that breath, right? Reminding us to use it as such the tool that it is to help us refresh, feel better. Such energy work of its own. Great. Okay. And then lastly, how about we just interlace the hands behind the head and open up the elbows, and that's going to open up that posture a little bit more. Even gives us the little power pose effect with opening the heart for a good solid minute, and that just boosts those chemicals of confidence and feeling more centered. And let's just breathe into that. Great. And then let's drop the arms, and let's go ahead and just stand and shake it out a little bit, because we just did a bunch of, well, that's simple, but we did some powerful energy work on ourselves. Shake it out, shake it off, integrate what you've done. And then of course this on its own is its own practice we can use just to deal with ourselves. Breathing into this. And then what if we just stand, feet, hips width apart and straight, as if we're at a wall. Just roll our shoulders back and down. And bring our hands into that prayer mudra. And the mudras, their own awesome practices that have a lot of energy effects. So this one really helping us get centered, and more receptive in that prayer mode, breathing into that, and breathing everything out. And then, yeah, remembering the intentions with our practice and just deciding to be more listening and feeling now, more relaxed, more with our breath. And then, as Holly's been reminding me to add the namaste to our own practices here, because I have that, my clients do that, but I sometimes forget. So here we could focus with that word namaste, which is reminding us the light we have within, that God within, which is a lot of what we're talking about with intuition, right? Learning to live from that. So in that namaste awareness of we've got that light within, everyone else does. How can we be in that awareness more? We can be so thankful for our practices. And what if we just say out loud with ourselves, namaste.
Namaste.
Yay.
Hey, thank you.
Well, just so fun and simple, right? And
Yes.
so, yeah, what if we come back to anything you want to say that's come up for you, what you want to share along the lines of movement and breath and some of what we just did?
I want to say that
Or add.
I've worked with Laura Jane, worked with you for a few months now, and I have 4 different practices. The last 3 of which now I rotate, and she increases the, I don't want to say difficulty, but the challenge of that they get more challenging as you're ready. And so I feel like I work through more things as we go. And I just wanted to say that if you're interested in that, I would highly recommend your movement, because it is such a nice complement to a morning routine. And it's so, I think that since it's designed by you, it's designed with such love and attention that you feel carried and taken care of when you're going through your own when you have a personalized practice from somebody else. You can always, do it on your own, right? But there's something about having someone carry you through it, and then she sends you a recording and you talk through it. So I spend my morning with you. It's like, it's always really, really nice. So,
well, thank you for mentioning that. And as you know, some of how I got into that was especially working with people having any sorts of pain issues, because that's definitely the best way to clear those up. But yeah, it is great when we can know just what to do and do it, and it can actually make it happen a lot faster. So thank you. Yeah. And and I definitely am so excited to remind people that they can work with you as an intuitive coach. I know just helping them so much with their own personal work and developing their practices and understanding more how they can bring that to their lives, right? And just living more intuitively. So I think it's so timely that you're doing that work too, because I just think that more people than ever are ready to live like that.
Yeah.
And really, like we've talked about, it's like it's so fun to remember that it's fun, but it's also a way of life that can probably keep us out of a lot of our symptoms and ailments, right? And just help us even make better decisions, right? Be better in our relationships, like that. More of us, especially if we think about it as living from our like more godly self, right? Or that part of us, that the more of us are living like that, it really would help the world, right? It's not just this selfish quest either, that it's like wanting to be in line with our best selves in a sense, right? So that we can help others and be the best mom or sister or wife or or employee, right?
Yeah. No, it's the mind, body, spirit connection, right? It's like, it's as important, I think, to take care of that spiritual and side of you, and the body part is like as important as like eating fruits and vegetables, right? Which we know are good for us, but like to really pay attention to how we're feeling and to our emotions, and learning to listen to our intuition to help guide us. It just like makes us live a happier a life, or a life that we feel empowered by, instead of, like powerless, right?
Yeah.
Like I said,
Yeah.
bad
Ooh.
things are still going to happen, but when you feel empowered and you feel like you can take care of yourself and you know what to do, it just makes the challenges, it just like, you can face those things, face
Yeah.
anything.
Right. And then it really is
More
going to
fun.
help you live happier and healthier.
Mhm.
100%, right? Because the more intuitive we are, which, we are loving sharing, that involves the body so much,
Mhm.
that it really is going to keep us so much healthier, mentally healthy and physically healthy, right? To
Mhm.
just learn to live more intuitively, right? Which also just means honoring ourselves, taking care of ourselves, listening to ourselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, making that a priority and a lifestyle, really,
Like, I
right?
just feel like it's a more satisfying existence.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just like you're content. I don't know,
Right.
like things are good, so yeah, I just
It's
think
so exciting. It really, to
so
me, it feels like it's the exciting news of the holistic quest, and of wellness. It's like, it's not only are we going to be, it's just, yeah, it's the consciousness piece that is kind of the why behind all of this. Like, the more that we can realize it's about this thing called intuition, and tuning into it more and living from that more, that can be the driving reason behind a lot of our personal development and our practices, right? It's just a really cool way to bring it all together.
yeah.
um, and for me, it kind of does feel like a new awareness too. Like, wow, okay, oh wow, it's what we're really honing here with all of this and
Yeah,
tapping
there's
into,
always
right?
something,
Right.
there's always a wow. You're always, as the journey of self-discovery, there's always a wow, you're just always
Yeah.
learning and learning more about yourself and
Yeah.
those
And if
around
we've
you.
been thinking we want to be more spiritual or spiritually connected, or I think this is a lot of what we're talking about is intuition.
Yeah,
That's
spirit, I
it.
mean, it lies
That's
within yourself. We're all a part of spirit or the divine.
yeah.
So it really, it is an I am. So you are that. So it is inside of you. And you just need to tap into that. And
Right. Yeah. And
having
that's really
daily
what we're talking
practice.
about.
Yeah.
A lifestyle of like living more from that
Mhm.
spiritual part of ourselves, right? Or like God within, and I think, it's fun with the age of Aquarius and all the talk of like Christ consciousness and such. I think this is, what maybe more and more people are ready for.
Yeah.
And it is a more whole way of being human. It's coming back, right? It's not like a new way. I think it's like this is like the way our ancestors were more, right? They were
Yeah.
more in tune like this, and we kind of like shoved it down and forgot and segregated, and so it's like coming back home to how we're built to be.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, yeah, it's been a journey, but I think there was at one point a knowing, and then we've kind of gotten away from it, and we're kind of coming back to it. And if you feel, people will feel guided to this. I mean, it's like more and more people do feel guided to this, and it's just
Right.
a really nice
Yeah.
nice way to be.
Right. Or are really woken up to it through, like, for me and you both, what got us more into our being consistent was physical wake up calls, right? Like
Yeah.
for me, it was like chronic pain stuff that came up years ago, and you with healing cancer. So yeah, we all have our reasons that we decide it's time to get more intuitive. And yeah, sometimes it's not just like because it sounds fun, but because we've had like a real wake up call,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, so
Yeah.
amazing. And I knew, God, that's perfect timing, really.
I know.
I mean, yeah, I feel like this has been a really great drop in, and I love what you shared. Is there anything else that you would want to say as we're starting
Um,
to?
I guess like did we share what our personal practices were?
No, why don't
Can
we do
we
that?
do that? Like
I
just
think
as I'll
so.
like wrap
Heck
it up.
yeah.
So if I started small, I won't give a story of how it all came to be, but currently,
Yeah.
I wake up, I brush my teeth, I come do my movement from Laura Jane. Then I get my lemon water. I do a little, I have like one of those books that has like a daily reading. And then I have some abundance work I do. and I've just added journaling, and I do some meditation. Today was like I woke up early and I had as long as possible. I spent 2 hours. I was like, oh my God. I spent 2 hours because I just moved through it slowly. I got my coffee like that, but I can condense that down to a half an hour. Like I'll leave some things out if I have to. And like, if I only have 5 minutes, I only have 5 minutes. So I don't want people to like think, oh my God, I could never do that. Like that's like my luxurious day. But,
Yes.
I always try, lemon water is probably my most consistent, right? Like
yes.
always do lemon water.
Yes, so that's a daily practice. Yeah. And then, so that's like your pretty consistent morning daily practice. And then do you have other practices during the day that you also would consider, pretty much part of your practices, but they may just happen later?
Yeah, well, I count like exercise, and I go for a walk every day with my dog. So I kind of count that as my daily practice. Listening to a podcast that I really like will be part of it. And then at night I close the day with like reading a great book, and then trying to write down some gratitudes and what I accomplished during the day, to like focus on some positive aspects. And it's kind of a nice closing to my day. So
that's smart. Yeah. The evening practices. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what so I could share what my current routines look like, is in my mornings, I usually make it a point to get in the journal, and I've been doing the morning pages from the Artist's Way for like 20 years. So I usually get myself to do those. And then usually a gratitude list is something that I make it a point to do. And I like to have a hot beverage too. I'll have some coffee, even though I don't really need it. I just enjoy the ritual of it. And then I'll also have hot water with lemon, is what I've been like aiming to do more. I love to listen to things that are tuning my attention. So I'm usually listening to at least some sort of YouTube of some teachers that I like, and then playing music throughout my morning, because I feel like that's such a vibrational tool for me. And and then I feel like a lot of those are forms of meditation, although I might also feel like I'm just sitting there doing what looks like meditation. And then I usually get down and do a mat practice of my own. That's personalized for me and takes about 15-20 minutes. So for me too, some mornings I can stretch it out and it can last a couple hours. And then other days, if I needed to get all done, and I could do it all in 30 minutes if I needed to. Yeah. But again, I love that Miracle Morning book reminds you could do 1 minute of each of those things, right? And I love how you call them success habits. That's really a nice term. Yeah. And then I would say other things that I know really help me that maybe aren't part of my mornings, but are practices that help me so much, are dancing to music that I love just by myself or in any way. And walking's a big practice for me. Definitely any time outside helps me so much. And then other ways of playing in the journal. I do love to get in there and do all sorts of gratitude exercises, or just different kind of manifestation things you can do. So that's a big tool for me. So it's
great.
Awesome. And I really love what's come through here today. I feel like I totally have learned and grown from this.
That's one thing with this work is like, when you're helping other people, you get as much out of it as they do. Like usually the messages are just as much for me as they are for anyone else. So.
Exactly. Right. I feel that so often. And the people I'm working with often have things that mirror, what I'm realizing. So it's beautiful how we're also connected. Yeah. So I think, we're just hoping for any of you who are still here, watching this now or later. We're so thankful that you've shared your time and trusted us with your attention. And hope that this has been helpful, and that we really just wanted to do this because we wanted to do this and as a way to share some of what we're excited about, and then of course make ourselves available if we can be of help to you all, with the ways that Holly and I both help people. So
so how do people get in touch with you, Laura Jane?
So I do have my website being rebuilt right now, so it is there. It's laurajaneyoga.com, and I'm Laura Jane on Facebook, and LJA Muse on Instagram. And and then you're seeing this on YouTube. So subscribe if you haven't already, so that you can stay tuned for future things. And yeah, Holly, will you tell us how to find and stay in touch with you?
Yeah, you can find my website at Holly MBS, Mind Body Spirit, mbscoach.com. And then I'm also on Instagram under that same name.
And yeah, you can contact me through either of those.
Great. Well, so fun. Thank you so much, Holly.
Thank you.
I
This
love
is
what
great.
came through. And yeah, really new awarenesses today and even surprised us. That's what's so fun about doing this intuitively, is we even surprised ourselves with our content.
We did. I know. We went in a direction I didn't expect for a while.
This was intuition led, right? So we're that authentic.
Right.
We're walking our talk. That's funny. Well, thank you. And all right, shall we close it with a namaste? Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great rest of the day out there, y'all. Namaste.